welcome. Hello, audience, and welcome to the Indie Writers. And to my right is author Harry Hall, who has written his latest book, This Used to Be Dallas. And here it is down here. I don't know if you can see the whole book. We put it on the front, and I'm going to read a little bit about Harry. Harry Hall is the author of Help! Everyone is Staring at Me, and the award-winning The Pedestrians, America's Forgotten Superstars. A long-time distance runner, Harry has spent much of his career writing and covering amateur and professional sports, from tennis exhibitions to the Olympics, track and field trials, to the Olympic track and field trials. He has lived in North Texas most of his life with his wife and family. And Harry is also a past classmate of mine from MacArthur High School.
Go Cardinals.
Yeah, and you'll notice that we've put out the red tablecloth in your honor. Harry is now probably the go-to guy if you want to know something about the city of Dallas and its old buildings. He has done this book, and by the way, I saw your interview on WFAA.
Oh, Good Morning Texas, yeah.
And I'll put a link to it down below if I can find it. I hope it's still there. So, and it was a good promo for your book.
Yeah, thanks.
Now, there's something I want to talk to you about, and that is you have like 99 or maybe 100.
90.
99, 98?
90 stories, yes.
90 stories of places in Dallas, and each one of them takes up like 2 pages, you know, and they all have pictures, and they all have the addresses to these places, and in the middle of the book there's some color pictures, but most of it's black and white. And in the back is 10 pages of notes, because I know Harry is what they call there a researcher. He does some heavy-duty researching. He did for the pedestrians, and oh my gosh, I estimate there's at least 500 references back here, where you've probably more than that, 'cause I didn't count them.
I didn't either. I don't want to. It might be scary.
But anyway, I read the book, and it's very interesting. I probably knew only about 20%, you know, of these locations, because I don't go into Dallas very often. Right. But for people who live in Dallas, this is and who are far away, this is a probably a reminder, a refresher for them, you know, from buildings from years gone by. You included the addresses, so I went to Google, instant Google Street View, and partnered with you on this, and looked up these some of these buildings, and one of them was I'm thinking, Audie Murphy's home. I didn't know Audie Murphy had a home here in Dallas, and I couldn't find it. It's probably away behind trees somewhere.
No, what you mean you actually couldn't find it? It used to be a restaurant. It's not on the front of the street. There's a bunch of office buildings in front.
I saw the office building.
There's a parking lot, and then in the back there's a kind of an open area, and it used to be a restaurant. It was called Bevy's Restaurant.
Okay.
And it's still there as an abandoned restaurant.
Okay.
But it's a trick to find. Yeah. Because, like I say, you can go driving up and down Addison Road. I guess it's on. I can't remember what the exact address is. And it took me a while to find it. But I mean, once I found it, it's like, oh my gosh, it's very big. It's very spacious. And it takes up a lot of territory.
I saw a picture of the home of Clyde Barrow.
Yep.
And he lived in a gas station for a while.
Yeah, I lived in the back of a gas station at 1221 South Singleton. And nobody really knows I don't even know what the status of that is, but that's one of the ones that I show, one of the pictures that I show. It's like, gosh, he lived up there. Yeah, they lived in the back there, up there for about 6 or 7 years.
It looks pretty barred up.
Yeah, it is. And this is the deal, is that Dallas doesn't have a real good history of preserving these structures. And it's really too bad, because one of the things that happened on this, I was doing a story on the Palace Theater. And also the Palace Theater, because that part of Dallas it was called Vaudeville Row. It's where Majestic is. And so they had all these theaters, had the Rialto and the Melba and all these theaters. One was the Palace Theater. And they tore it down in 1970 And about a month later, I don't know, they put up a 7-Eleven or something. I don't remember. But you know, some of those deals have been destroyed. And I was going to do this deal on the Palace Theater, and I said, "Oh my gosh, he doesn't want buildings that have been destroyed and replaced. He wants buildings that have been refurbished." Okay. Now, he gave me a little bit of leeway because there were certain stories, and I call them, for example, I did Parkland Hospital, and I told him, I said, "Look, Parkland's had 3 different locations." I said, "You can't do a book like this without talking about Parkland Hospital." I said, "It's been around too long, and it ties to the Kennedy assassination and all of that. I mean, you just can't do it because it's just been too significant." But what happened after I realized what I'd done with this Palace Theater debacle, I said, that's too big of a term, but I just sat back and looked at it and I said, okay, how many of these do I have to change? Because I had all 90 of the stories, I had them all picked out, and I had a lot of them already written, and they all had rough drafts. So I had rough drafts on all of them, and I said, okay, I've got to go back and look at this a little bit differently. And so I'd look at every folder and I'd say, is this historically significant? Does it have a good picture? Does it have a good story behind it?
That's a lot of work for 2 pages, you know.
It was, especially since I ended up having to start over on a third of them. I threw 30 of them away. I mean, I've got this big pile of just 30, these 30, I don't know what to do with them now.
Now you said he. Who is he?
My publisher.
Okay.
Publisher, Josh. But some of it was just me not really grasping what I was looking at, because what I did, everybody says, how did you do this? Well, I got about a dozen books, and got Maria Brumley's books. She had a couple of them, and I had one by A.C. Green, and then one of my friends loaned me one, Dallas, 1845 to 1890, something like that. And I would go through and I'd read these books. Oh, Dwayne, I forgot his last name anyway. Any rate, I got all those books, and I just started looking through them and reading them, said, oh, that's interesting. And I'd put it on a little card, 3x5 card. This was the book, this was the page number, here's what it was. So I had a stack of about 500. And I just started, I said, okay, is this really a story? And okay, maybe, maybe and good and no. And so my maybe file got kind of big. And one of the real good maybe files was the Canvas Hotel. The Canvas Hotel, I'm a member of the Dallas Press Club, and we had a mixer at the Canvas Hotel because it had been the Nilo Hotel. I said, okay, it changed, one hotel to another. This is a maybe. Until I found out that the Nilo Hotel had been a variety of buildings, including the Sears building, but it started out as the Dallas Coffin Company.
Oh, okay. I remember the Coffin story. Okay.
This was the Dallas Coffin Company, and they offered their services 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and this was in 1910.
Wow.
And you would telegraph them, and whatever you needed, coffins, caskets, any kind of mausoleum supplies, whatever you needed for a funeral, then they would put it on a train and they would ship it out to you.
Wow, yeah.
And this was really a new venture, because until the Civil War,
and then it became the Sears building.
And then it became the Sears building. Because until the Civil War, when a family member died, the families took care of it.
Yeah.
There wasn't any place to go. There's a picture of my family, this real famous picture of my great-grandmother, who the story was she accidentally poisoned herself in like 1914, something like that. And probably the only picture of her is in the casket.
Oh.
And it's creepy, because all the kids, and there was like a dozen of them, and I'm not exaggerating, there was like a dozen kids there, including my grandfather, who was like 2. And it's a coffin. The coffin is propped up, and you see her in it, and you see my great-grandfather there next to it. And
you should have propped her up you should have put her in a chair like they used to,
Oh, that's my question about this picture has always been, where did the camera come from? Because these people were dirt poor. I mean, my family had dirt floors until 1950. They didn't have electricity, so they were decades away from even that. But that's how it was done until the Civil War, and then all of these technologies came about, and that's actually where funeral directors came from, was about this time. And it was really radical for the day. And so I was reading this at my writers group, and one of my friends says, "Hey man, people can go to the Canvas Hotel and for one night rest in peace." Good one. I said, "You just wrote the close for my chapter," and he did too.
That was a good line. Saw Babe Diedrichson's home.
Oh,
little tiny home.
Yeah, this is really good. This is great. Did this on Good Morning Texas. So I go to the Dallas Historical Society. I'm giving a talk out there. The first person to walk in as an audience member, she says, "My name is Stacy Hayes." I said, "I'm pleased to meet you." She says, "You can imagine my surprise when I saw your segment on Good Morning Texas and saw my house."
She didn't know that was.
I live on Hames Street. I said, "You live at 904 Hames?" She says, "Yeah." I said, "Holy cow!" I said, "You didn't have any idea?" She said, "No, I had no clue."
Wow.
Babe Diedrichson, and this was part of the deal that I was looking for, because I knew Babe Diedrichson, and Babe Diedrichson in the 1920s and 1930s was the greatest female athlete in the world. She was recruited to come to Dallas from Beaumont as a junior in high school to play on their corporate basketball team, because in the 20s and 30s, women's corporate basketball was a huge deal. The national champion was Sunoco Oil, which was based in Dallas. So this insurance company said, "Well, we got to do something because we can't let them." So they brought her over, and sure enough, she led them to a national title. They won title, and they got second place another time and third another time, something like that. Then she goes off to the Olympics, wins 2 Olympic gold medals and a silver. And she was playing golf just right around the corner there at Stevens Golf Course, and she was seen out there practicing golf. She started the LPGA, but after she went to the Olympics, she came back and she went on a vaudeville tour and played the harmonica.
Good.
On a vaudeville tour, yeah. And she was really instrumental in all of this. And this is one of those places. Babe Diedrichson's home was one of those places. Nobody knew this. I found this from the University of Dallas library, and I had the street name where Babe Diedrichson lived. And Shelley Gaylor at the University of Dallas, she says, "Well, I've got a city directory. I've got, because I'm an archival librarian, and so I've got." So she found that. She says she lived at 904 Hames Street, and we had that in two straight years city directory. So I went out to Hames Street and found it. Said, "Okay, this is where she lived. Put it in there." And I went out there like 3 or 4 times, and I knocked on the door, and nobody ever answered. So I was like, okay. No. So anyway, she showed up. That was the first person who showed up.
She didn't sue you,
she was
or
really
what?
excited. You can't sue anybody.
Didn't want royalties or anything. Okay.
No, but she's interested in seeing that something happens to it.
Well, that's interesting.
Because not only she's up, because I own that house, and I said, okay, well, there's something we can do that, and that one, and Ray Charles's home too, 2642 Matilda. That's something else, and that's gotten a fairly good amount of publicity over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah.
But those are 2 places that Dallas really needs to look at and say, there were some important individuals.
At least a plaque, or
some
something.
kind of recognition
Sure,
somewhere about who actually
change the name of the street or something.
I hadn't thought of that. That's a good idea.
Well,
Babe Diedrichson Road, yeah.
Well, we got Porter's downtown here. The Army Navy store. They got the street. They had the name change on a street for them. We should. Everybody knows who Babe Diedrichson is.
Babe Diedrichson, yeah.
If they know sports,
Yep.
I was surprised to find out that Bonnie Parker was a married woman when she took up with Clyde Barrow.
Yeah, that's something not a lot of people know. And she never really divorced the guy either. And he was every bit as a fine, upstanding young man as Mr. Barrow was.
Oh,
I mean, this was not good. This was not a good.
Well, what's the scoop on that? Do you know? Do you know more about it?
Not a whole lot. I know that I don't think she ever took off her wedding ring. I think when she died, she still had her wedding ring on. This guy. So I don't know what that relationship was like. They weren't together very long because she was married when she was like 15, I think. And I don't even remember this guy's name. But yeah, I think they stayed married. And when she was killed, I think she was still wearing his wedding ring. So I don't know.
Well, I wonder if he's buried next to her.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so.
Now, how did you decide which ones to use?
Yeah, that goes back to, I was looking for, is this a good photo? Is this a good story? Is this a historically significant building? And plus there was another factor in there, goes into the Babe Diedrichson, something that nobody knew. I was looking for buildings stories that not very many people knew, and that's a classic, on there. Another one was Bell Star Road. I did the deal on Bell Star, and everybody's heard of Bell Star, but in the 1870s, she was Dallas's most famous resident. And they've got that little bitty street that's like, I don't know, 75 yards long or something, but that's where their farm was. And the story was that she was dealing in running a livery stable that only dealt with stolen horses, which I find a little bit hard to believe. But one of the statements I made in the book is to really find out the truth about Bell Star would require a time machine, because you hear all these stories and we don't know how many of them are true and what's true and what's not. But she was married to Jim Reed, who was one of the outlaws who hung out with Jesse James. But I mean, you got Bell Star, and Bell Star, there's a statue of her in Oklahoma where she was killed. She was killed when she was 41 years old in 1889. Nobody knows who did it. I mean, there are a lot of suspects out there, but nobody knows who did it. But she's got a statue. She had a church, supposedly, and a school named after her, as well as a street, we know, and a bar. So when you got a church, a street, a school, a bar, and a statue, you did something. There was something out there.
She's governor.
And I just thought it was something. I thought it was something really fascinating, especially when I got out there and I said, "Oh my gosh," because it's in Far East Dallas. It's almost in Mesquite. It's just off Cyene Road, and there are certain outliers, that I would look for, and one of them was Bell Star up there, and the other one, Audie Murphy up there. I couldn't not do this deal on Audie Murphy because the most decorated soldier in our nation's history, and he had a house here. He never lived there, but he owned this farmhouse.
Yeah.
And when you've got people like that in the past with these really colorful pasts, you look for that. And another real good one was Campese's. Everybody knows what Campese's looks like.
Did you know we had a classmate who married a Campese?
I did not know that.
Remember Roz Robbins? She was a what do you call her? A campus beauty.
Yeah.
And she was one time she was our homecoming queen, I think, one year.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, she had hair down.
Yeah, very long brown hair. Yeah.
Well, she married a Campese.
Is that right?
She became a Mrs. Campese, for a while, but
she's got some tales to tell. but this is a good one because everybody knows what the building looks like. But if you know the story of Campese's, you want to read that chapter. And if you don't know the story, you really want to read the chapter. Because again, most of it is legend, but anytime you can tie it into, you got Jack Ruby, who was frequently ate there, along with Tom Landry. This place really had something going for it.
Two different spectrums.
Yeah, it just doesn't get any. That's right. That's right.
Wow. Well, that's a... what I was going to do, I was going to pick out a story and say, tell me about it. Okay. I'm just going to go, the ladies of Frogtown.
Ladies of Frogtown. Back in the early part of the 20th century, that part of Dallas, and it's over off of runs through downtown. It's where Clyde Warren Park is, over by Clyde Warren Park. That I can't believe I forgot. It cuts right through the middle of downtown. I can't believe I've forgotten the name of that street. But at any rate, that part just under there, over by some of those restaurants, that was called Frogtown. It was called Frogtown because frogs were seen out there frequently because this was before the Trinity River was moved. And yeah, that's a picture of it.
Did you want to look up the street?
No, because I don't have my glasses on.
Okay, all right. Woodall Rogers.
Woodall Rogers.
There you go.
It was Woodall Rogers, right down below that. And that was where prostitution was legal. And the thought was, okay, if we contain it, then we can control it. But what happened was a lot of the tourists would come by on buses or whatever, and the prostitutes were out there broadcasting and showcasing their wares.
They got to make money.
And it got to be a little bit much and a little bit seedy, so that little experiment didn't last very long.
That could make Dallas look bad.
It was a fascinating part of Dallas history for sure. And,
it's close to the churches and schools.
Yeah.
Okay,
not far from Perot. It's not far from the Perot. Yeah.
Here we go, another one. Kidd Springs Park.
Kidd Springs Park is over in Oak Cliff, and they have a big festival out there in the fall. It's called blues and barbecue or something, and so they have big blues bands come out and they have barbecue all weekend long, and you go and you get to sample all these barbecue that these guys have made.
Blues Bandits and
Blues
barbecue.
Bandits, that's what it's, Blues Bandits, yeah. And they do that every fall. It's in October or November. They're probably not going to do it this year. But it became a big deal. And that's one of the areas, because it's not a building, but it's an area. And it's an interesting area because it was just so much Texas. And the biggest part of this that I really found interesting was how much Oak Cliff really had to offer. And we grew up in Oak Cliff. My brother and I, we spent up until I was like 10 or 11 years old, we were in Oak Cliff.
What brought you to Irving?
And I had no idea my parents got married.
Okay.
My mother and my stepfather got married. But we were off of Illinois and Westmoreland.
Okay.
And I did about 8 or 9 stories. That's where the first 7-Eleven was.
Yeah.
Kessler Park, Babe Diedrichson's home,
Right.
what you were just talking about, the Kid Springs Park. Those were all places in Oak Cliff, and I could have had a lot more. But some of them were the ones that the buildings were destroyed. They had a girls' college out there.
Yeah.
There was a girls' college out there in like 1905 or something.
Well,
and it got torn down, and so there's nothing there now. And of course, at Lake Cliff Park, they had that big amusement park at Lake Cliff Park, which I just find absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
And I've been out there several times and tried to figure out exactly how this was laid out. They called it the Coney Island of the Southwest. Yeah. And they had casinos. They had casinos. They had theaters. Al Jolson played out there, who was the first voice ever heard in a movie. Al Jolson and the jazz singer. And they had water slides, and they had hot air balloons, and people would jump out of them. And they had like a little swimming area, and it was really popular for about 4 or 5 years. But what happened was, the flood of 1908, which caused the Trinity River to be moved, it wiped out all of the streetcars. And streetcars were a huge part of transportation here back then. And there was no way for people in Dallas to get to Oak Cliff. And Oak Cliff was cut off. So that went along enough, and it just killed it. I think probably it was pretty expensive to maintain. But on one day in July 4th, I've forgotten the exact date, 1909 or 1908, they had 12,000 people out there. You talk about 105 years ago getting 12,000 people in one place, and you look at Lake Cliff Park, it's not that big. I thought, and you think, for example, the one of the records building, which was where President Kennedy was the school book depository. Yeah. I called 6th Street. I called the 6th Street Museum, and I said, "There's just, there's no way I'm going to be able to afford this." And they said it was $25. Huh. And I said, "This is golden." And that's really the ultimate building, is that one. We closed it out with when it did the Good Morning Texas, and just the greatest thing was, as soon as we put that up there, Jane McGarry said, "I've never seen this picture." And it was taken the weekend of the Kennedy assassination. He was killed on a Friday, and this was that weekend.
Flowers everywhere?
Flowers, and people are everywhere. And I just imagine a lot of the folks who were in that picture, telling their kids or their friends, I was standing right there and I heard the shots from up there, and that's, and just describing it, because, a lot of those people who were there, they were there, they were there on that Friday. And it's a real sobering memory, and it just really sticks with you because the picture is tremendous, the story is tremendous, and the historical significance of it. So that picture really has everything in it. It's located pretty centrally. All you got to do is hop off the TRA and walk over there, and there you are. And plus, whenever you've got to go to a court, be on the court or something, you got to. That's where it's just a little walk right over there. And if you're going to go downtown Dallas, it's right there. When you come into Dallas, And you don't realize another one that I did, another Oak Cliff, was the Texas Theater, where Lee Harvey Oswald was picked up. And my brother and I were like 5 and 6. I didn't really realize he was picked up 3 miles from our house. We were 3 miles away probably when all of that happened. and the school book depository was only like 6 or 7 miles away. And you get older, you just realize, holy cow! I mean, we were just a few miles from where history was.
Yeah.
One of the great tragedies in American history, and we were just right there.
Did you know what was going on at the time?
Oh no, I had. You know what I remember about it the most? This is so weird.
Cartoons or
No. I remember my brother asking. I remember he was 4. I think he was 4 or 5, and he asked Mom, "If the president's killed, how can he still be on TV?" Because all they did was
that's a good question.
For 4, I thought that's
sure.
pretty good. That's pretty good because I wasn't even in school yet.
And that's why he became an accountant. That's right. Did you enjoy putting this book together, or was it a hard thing?
It's one of these deals that I spent months and months doing it and redoing it and throwing items away and just really frustrating. The frustrating part was having to go through and take out those 30 stories that I already had completed. A lot of this I don't have a problem with because I know I'm kind of ready, fire, aim guy, and I don't think things through. I just kind of do it, and then I always have to backtrack. Always have to do that. But the biggest deal for me, the biggest frustration was all those photographs. I don't do photographs well. And there's a lot of calls, and there's a lot of frustration, and there's a lot of rejection. And I just go back to that Cliff building. After I got it in there, I said, God, this is going to make this story rock, And then they said the quality's not good enough, so I ended up with a picture of Mike Selden inside, which is fine. I mean, Mike Selden, KLIF.
Well, do you save all your notes and everything?
Yeah, I've got everything.
Well, maybe you can have maybe come out with a second book.
Yeah. This? No, I don't think so. I don't think so. It was a tremendous amount of work, but it's been, when I went to my CPA last year, I said, God, this has been such a nightmare, Steve. This has just been awful. I said, I just want to get this thing out of my life. And he said, look, when you get it done and you get it, you're going to get out there and start promoting it and talking about it and selling books. It's going to be fun. And it has been. I don't think about those things at the time. It was just a lot of frustration at the time.
Oh, man. Okay. Well, now, how did you get hooked into writing a book about Dallas?
Josh, who's the editor or the publisher of Reedy Press out of St. Louis, he's really got a smart business plan, because what he does, he's got all these cities, dozens and dozens of cities, and it goes from like Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon. I mean, St. Louis, Chicago, San Francisco, all of these locally themed books that have been written. He was looking to expand into Dallas, and he started looking up Dallas authors. And through a roundabout way, he found out about me. We met at this restaurant. There were about 8 or 9 other authors there, and we talked about just different deals. And he wasn't sold on me yet, but I said something that impressed him, because he called me. He says, "Let's have breakfast tomorrow." And so we met out at this place and had breakfast. And I said, "Okay, you didn't come out here because I'm a nice guy. What do you want?" He says, "Would you be interested in writing this book called This Used to Be Dallas?" And he just sat down and started explaining it to me. He explained some of it, but he really wanted to sit down with one-on-one and say, "What do you think about this? Would you be, could you do this?" And I said, "Well, it incorporates a lot of things that I really like. It's got history in Dallas, and I'm certainly well versed." And my first thought was the waterfall billboard, because I remember the first time I saw the waterfall billboard. And I was like 5 years old. I looked up, I said, "That is the coolest thing I've ever seen. That is great." And I really gushed about the waterfall billboard, because this is magnificent. This is a Dallas landmark. I mean, we've got a billboard. How many cities have a landmark, a billboard for a landmark? And it's still fascinating, and the location is great.
Well, how many things has it been? It used to.
It's advertised. Yeah, right. It's advertised Coors and cigarettes and vodka and a lot of different Dallas Cowboys, a lot of different deals over the years. But it's just the fact that somebody at Tracy Locke came up and said, "God, you know what? We could do something with that up there." It's just the creativity of it is brilliant, and the fact that it's been around for more than 50 years is just incredible.
Yeah, I remember in the early '60s.
Yeah,
that's about. We're getting close to 60 years now.
Yeah, it's been amazing.
Now the things that were left out. Mm-hmm. Okay, like say there's a big giant church downtown.
Yeah,
Dallas.
Yeah, because it wasn't anything else.
Because
It's always been a church.
Okay.
If you like talking about the First Baptist Church of Dallas,
Yeah.
it's always been the First Baptist Church of Dallas. It wasn't anything else. Now, it's been renovated, but it still has always been the First Baptist Church of Dallas. Now, when you look at that restaurant, Dakota's Restaurant, which is underground, and this is the classic story. Okay. It was, what was it? Well, it was owned by First Baptist Church of Dallas, and the rule was that they couldn't sell it to anybody who's going to sell alcohol. Well, they really wanted to put this restaurant here, and they said, okay, we won't sell alcohol, we won't put it up there. They built it 18 feet underground because now we can sell alcohol underground because it's not sitting on top. And you get a story like that, I said, okay, this is golden. I mean, this is just brilliant. And this is so Dallas. And so that was one. And another one that I really wanted to do, it had the Kirby building. Which is just adjacent to the Adolphus Hotel. It's just right across the street. And I really wanted to do something on the Kirby building. It's been there. It's called like the Great Lady or something like that. And I just couldn't find a story behind it that I really did like.
So everything you wanted to do had to be something else at one time? Or
yeah, everything was supposed to be something else. What was this and what is it now?
This used to be
Dallas.
Okay.
The First Baptist Church of Dallas was always the First Baptist Church of Dallas. They didn't move anything in there.
Wow.
And the records building, let's put the records building, I don't care what the record, it's always going to be the school book depository.
Wow.
Call it what you want, it's always going to be that.
How about the Dallas Zoo? Or maybe that was just a, who knows, a farm or something.
There's a lot that you can do, and like I say, I have 410 cards theoretically of other deals that I didn't use, couldn't use, or whatever, and you can just go through all kinds of do Prince's hamburgers. I want to do Prince's hamburgers, and I can't remember why I didn't do Prince. I think so. There's nothing now. But I was looking at Prince's Hamburgers, and I went out there, and it was one of the places that I checked out, and I can't remember why I didn't do that.
Prince's, is it a restaurant or?
It was a hamburger place.
Hamburger.
It was a Prince hamburger place. I want to say it was off of Inwood, but I can't remember for sure.
Was it a franchise or it was just the owner, the first one?
I don't remember. I don't remember why it had appealed to me, but a couple of people mentioned it, and I went back and looked at the history of it. And I can't remember why I didn't use it, but those were two stories that I really wanted to use, and it just didn't have the oomph that I was looking for, and that's what you have to do. That and this is the hard part. I mean, I look back and I sat back, I looked at all those folders. I said, do you realize that all the extra work you're going to have to do now because these things but everything is like this, and if you're not willing to do that, to say, okay, this isn't good enough. I'm going to have to live with this. If I didn't, if I put something in there that I really didn't like, I got to say, God, man, this thing sucks, And you don't want to do that. You want to have something that you're proud of, and that's just kind of the nature of the beast. And it's worse for me because I'll just go out there and throw stuff out there and not think about it at the time until later.
Well, now This was an interesting book, people. You get it. Every story is only 2 pages long. You can set it down, come back to it. A couple days later, and start up where you left off. And it's fun. And I know it was fun for you. I guess it was. I was going to say it was fun for you, but it was a lot of labor.
Labor of love. At first, emphasis on labor. It was really, but that's not something that you talk about because you don't think about that. Later on, you just kind of forget about it, and you just realize, okay, I want to have something that I'm proud of, and I'm proud of this.
What's your next book?
Let me get this one out first. I've got a lot of writing projects that have come across my desk. I'm working on several right now. I've reworked Pedestrians, and we've got new marketing on that because what happened, and this is the very thing that happened is what...
The award-winning book?
Yeah. Well, what happened was people bought the book, they started doing their own research, and then they came back and filled me in on some of the holes that there were in it.
Okay, well, hey, it's good.
Yeah, and so we got a whole bunch more information on Exilda LaChapelle. We know exactly what happened to her, and she was the most sympathetic, of the professional female walkers of that era. I got 2 pictures of Pedestrians that I didn't have before, put those in the new book. And so I've reworked it a bit, and we're doing some new marketing on it, and I'm very excited about where we're headed with that. Yeah.
When is the Kindle coming out on This Used to Be Dallas?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that it's not out. I think that it might be. Yeah,
okay. Well, it's been about a week since I checked. So
I think it's excuse me. I think it's available at Kindle for $12.99.
Well, okay.
I think that's right.
I love reading Kindle because the print gets a little bigger, and, and I need that these days. Harry, what else would you like to say about the book? We got to wrap it up.
It really does give a full history. I got one of the compliments that I got said when I was at the Historical Society. It said you really covered all of Dallas, and there were a lot of different areas. It's really easy to get concentrated, but as I said, we got Oak Cliff, we got East Dallas, we got Far North Dallas, got the aerobic center, all those places up near SMU, and just tried to cover everything throughout the city, and I think we did a fairly good job of that.
Okay, folks, it's available on Amazon.
Or you can get it at thisusedtobedallas.com for $25, and that includes tax and postage, and I'll sign it for you. So if you want to get a signed copy, we have that at thisUsedToBeDallas.com, and all it is just a landing page, and just you order the book there for $25.
Well, thanks for being on the Indie Writers.
Thank you, sir. Enjoyed it.
And you come back with your next book.
Okay, we'll do that.
All right.